This is the problem with books that I really like, is I just say repetitively, it's so good. And hello my loves, and thank you for joining me. It's Kirsten, and today is the Tackle Your TBR Readathon, which is a 24-hour readathon. I do this bi-monthly. There is an announcement video, but in case you've missed it, there are 4 prompts that I keep the same, but feel free to change those prompts as much as you want. Use them, don't use them, it doesn't really matter. The actual purpose of this readathon is to have a day to just rest, relax and read. That's it. I still sleep. I don't stay up for the 24 hours and try and do that. I can't do that. I need my sleep. And yeah, it's just about remembering to take one day for yourself every so often and tackle those TBRs while we're at it. It's really chill and low stakes, and you can do what you want with it really. I do have a Discord channel where I do more live updates of what I'm reading at that moment and what I'm thinking about it, but obviously you will get that all in this video as well. But I have my Discord channel linked below in case you want to join in future. But let's get to the books that I actually want to read. Okay, so we've got 4 prompts. The first prompt is really easy, which is just read something off your TBR. And I'm going with Codename Sailor V Volume 1. This is quite a nostalgic manga for me. Technically this is actually a new manga, but this is based on the Sailor Moon manga and anime show that came out while I was growing up, and I loved it. I fell in love with this. Gives me a nice format change, so as much as yes I do want to sit down and chill out, read all day, I find it quite difficult to sit there and read novel format books all the time, so a manga helps break up the formatting of the book. Audiobooks would be a really good way of doing this, but I don't actually have anything to listen to audiobooks apart from like YouTube. Manga it is. Plus I get the added benefit of this just being an absolute nostalgic time, and I've been so excited to read this since I got it. So this is like a prequel to Sailor Moon and the anime and comics and everything that came with that. I think this is going to be a good one to break up the rest of the reading that I've got for today. The second prompt is continue a series, or you can continue a book you're already in the middle of, or whatever. Do whatever you want with it. For me, I'm going with Lost in the Moment and Found by Shauna Maguire. This is the 8th book in the Wayward Children series, a series that I really enjoy. It's a series of portal fantasies. They're all really small. They're all about under 200 pages. I think the longest is like 250 pages. Whether it's an odd number or an even number will depend on whether it continues the storyline or is a prequel giving you background information to some of the characters you've met. This one, because it's an even number, it is a prequel of a character we met in the 7th book, and I'm really excited to read this one. All of the books focus on something different, so we're following different people that fall into these fantasy worlds that find where they're meant to be, or at least find themselves, even if that place is no longer for them. It's helped them find who they are, and it questions a lot of different societal things each time the books focus on like a different topic that Shauna Maguire like rips apart. I really like them. I think they're done really well. I like the different elements to it, and I like the fact that we have a continuing plot line, but we do also get books that explore more of these different worlds and more of the characters' backstory. I love it. I love the way it's done. This series, like, there's so many possibilities for it, so the fact that it is such a long series doesn't bother me. Also, because they're so short, it doesn't feel that long. But yeah, really excited for this one. Third prompt is a book I keep putting off, and for this one I'm kind of stretching it a bit to actually go with Ken Follett's Pillars of the Earth. Now, no way in hell do I plan on reading all of this, but I am currently doing a 2-month-long buddy read for this over on Discord, and I am behind. I'm meant to be up to chapter 4 by the end of this week, and I'm only on chapter 2, so I need to catch up and read quite a bit of this. I think it works out that I need to read 220 pages, so that's what I'm aiming for today. And this was very much a book I kept putting off because, I mean, look at the size of it, it's huge. Saying that, at the minute I'm really enjoying this one. I'll get more into it when I read it. This is the plan to start with this book actually. I would like to read 50 to 80 pages or something, and then the final prompt is to read a short book. And again, it can be interpreted in any other ways. Like a manga could technically be a short book because they're normally quite quick reads, because it's like pictures and stuff. You could do a comic, you could do an actual short book, like whatever works for you. For this, I have gone with Oscar Wilde, Lord Arthur Saville's Crime, and this is a very short book. It's 50 pages long, and this is actually one that's been on one of these TBRs before, but I never actually got around to reading it, so I'd really like to get this one read. It's Wilde's supremely witty tale of dandies, anarchists and murderous prophecy in London's high society. It sounds really good, and I love Oscar Wilde's writing, so it's about time I read more than just The Picture of Dorian Gray, so very excited to do that. So that is the TBR for this 24 hours. We'll see what I actually get read. Pillars of the Earth is the highest priority because I have a buddy read for that, and I do think the manga's definitely going to get read. As for the other two, sometimes these go to plan, sometimes I decide, actually, you know what, I don't want to read any of this stuff, and we change TBR completely. So I guess we're going to find out. It is, 9:06, so we'll be carrying on this readathon until about 9 o'clock Sunday morning, and we'll just see what I get read, what I get done. I do want to journal a bit today, and I should probably actually edit a video as well, so I might take an hour or two out of the day to do that. So I hope if you are taking part that you have enjoyed it and you've take that day for yourself, and even if you don't want to take part, just remember to at least take a bit of time for you, because that is really important. Let's start the readathon. It's now 1 o'clock, literally just turned 1:03. I'll be honest, I haven't actually read loads. It's been 4 hours and I have just read chapter 2 of Pillars of the Earth, so I'm now up to page 162. It was 80 pages long. Now on chapter 3. To be fair, I did stop and edit a video, did some lunch and that, but yeah, it's been a slow reading morning, but I am enjoying this book. So it seems like we're following different perspectives in each chapter, giving us a different understanding of what's going on. So this prologue starts off with a hanging that's taking place and a woman cursing the men responsible. And then we have chapter 1 where we're following Tom. He is a mason and he wants to build this amazing cathedral, and we follow him for 80 pages and the hardships that he goes through. Then chapter 2 we're following a monk, and you do see how they tie together and how it leads from Tom's perspective to the monk, which is Philip, and how that works. So it makes sense that you're then seeing Philip, you see how he became a monk and everything that's going on. It all seems to be tying in around this one particular place. I actually found that chapter 2 with the monk's perspective was really just showing you how much politics plays a part even within religion. It was really interesting to see the different ways that people were interpreting different passages within the Bible that they were talking about, and how different interpretations, like the different ways you read things, can mean so many different things. It's so true for anything that you read. Everyone has different interpretations of it. It was really interesting to see that, and then see, honestly, the messy drama with it all. So we have something that happens which causes Philip to be in the run-in to become a prior. I don't really know all the ins and outs of the hierarchy of that, but basically like a really high up monk, and you see all the different things, the strategizing and things that's going on. Now Philip is a lovely person and he doesn't really want to take part in that. He's very much like this isn't the way religion should be, like that's not the way that should work. He's a really nice character, he's very lovely, very caring, but it was really interesting to see that side of things and see it as, you know what, religion's just like anything else. It can be misinterpreted, everyone has different views on what it should be, and of course people are always trying to climb the ladder, and it's really no different to anything else. It's no better than anything else. I enjoyed that chapter. It was really interesting actually. And now we're going on to chapter 3, and it'll be interesting to see who we're following, because again I think we move on now to a different perspective. It makes sense why each of the chapters are so long if they're going to be different perspectives. It will be interesting to see whether we ever go back to a perspective that we've met before or not. I'd be interested whether we just get 18 different perspectives, because that's what the book is. Although, of course, won't be doing all of this today. I'm going to take a break. I want to actually like complete a book. So I'm thinking, let's take a break and swap to manga. Get this done. I might tidy my room a bit because it's an absolute mess. I need to hoover, I need to sort out bits. So I might just do that and then go back to this. And I'm thinking the way I did chapter 2, because it's broken down into 4 parts each chapter. You seem to have like chapter 2 part 1, chapter 2 part 2. And so I read 2 parts, then did some editing, and then read the last 2 parts, and obviously now I'm doing the update, and I think I'm going to stick with that for this. So I'll read chapter 3 parts 1 and 2 after I've read Sailor V, then maybe take a break to tidy up my room, and then read the last 2 parts of chapter 3, and then probably swap out for a different book to read, because I really do want to get this read, but I also want to read some of the other stuff, and I do enjoy taking this slowly. Like, I'm loving the writing style. It's really gorgeous. It really captures you and you really get drawn into that person and what's going on, and I think it's all really well done. But I also don't want to rush read it. I like breaking up what I'm reading, because I've become, sorry, bit of a tangent. I mean, this whole thing is a tangent anyway, but because I've become a person that reads so many books at once, like currently 6 books on the go at once, and I'm so used to it that I now find it really weird to sit there all day and just read one book. Like, I really like mixing it up. Don't get me wrong, I will sit there and read one book for like 3-4 hours in a row if I really get into it and I don't want to put it down. But I think because we're at the start of this, not quite there yet with it. Also, in general, I do actually prefer just mixing up what I'm reading and just picking up what I'm in the mood for. And right now I'm feeling like I've got a bit of energy. I had lunch, so I really want to read something that's going to be quick, make me feel accomplished that I've actually finished a book, and then get back to this one, but also break it up with some of the chores that I need to do. I definitely think it's time to read this. I'm very, very excited. I mean, look how beautiful it is. It is so good. And I have a bunch of snacks with me. Not that I'm feeling hungry, but just in case. I've spent the last 8 minutes basically just telling you that that's what I'm going to do, and we've just dragged it out 8 minutes. I'm not even sorry for, because I'm not, because I'm going to do it again, but I do feel kind of bad for you to sit through all of this. But anyway, that's enough rambling. Let's read Sailor V. Do move off this bed, but it is 50 minutes later and I don't know about Sailor V, which is such a shame. So as I said, Sailor Moon is something that I grew up watching. I loved Sailor Moon when I was younger. As I'm older, I've been collecting the Sailor Moon manga and reading through them. They aren't the best, but it has that nostalgia quality for me. However, reading Sailor V, codenamed Sailor V I should say, it has the nostalgia because obviously Sailor Moon is something I grew up with, but there's so much in here that I just think is the wrong message to be sending. And yes, this was originally first published in Japan in 2014, but I don't think it's aged well. If we look at, ignoring the messages and stuff, what it actually is, this is a young girl that realizes that she is a guardian of Earth, that she is descended from like Venus, has to protect Earth from these different villains, and each volume, because this is a bind up of the first 8 volumes, defeating a different baddie in this book. It's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever seen Sailor Moon or something, but the episodes, the starting episodes where we were just first meeting Sailor Moon and she was defeating the bad guys on her own, just starting to see that thing, and that she doesn't really want to be an actual Sailor Scout and things like this. Yeah, it's that. It's this just we're seeing Sailor Venus, not Sailor Moon, which is fine. I'm fine with that. It's a silly, fun time. It doesn't take itself too seriously in that sense. It's really easy and repetitive. We know that we're going to have the start of the book with them going, I'm Sailor V, I protect the world, being silly, schoolgirl, failing in class. Then there's going to be something that happens and she gets really excited and doesn't want it to be a bad person, but it is a bad person, so she has to go and defeat them, and then she defeats them and we move on to the next one. To be quite honest, my manga taste is actually darker than this. It's a bit too light and cutesy and stuff. Anyway, not the point. The thing that I actually got to me and ended up being that I just kind of skim read and mainly just looked at the pictures was in the first volume. We have Sailor V wanting to impress this guy that she's in love with, and she says to herself, oh, I wish I could be beautiful. And then Artemis, who's a cat, that is her mentor that's showing her things and how to become the guardian, goes, oh, but you can become beautiful. And I feel like that's the wrong message to send. Surely, considering this is actually aimed at children, I wouldn't know how young, to be fair, but it is aimed at a younger audience. That doesn't seem quite right. And then the second one, it was to do with a game, and it actually had a whole thing in this saying that the whole point of games was for guys that were really lonely, that was never going to have a future with a girl, and that's what they were there for, is to like lose themselves so that they can escape the reality of never having a girlfriend. And I was like, aren't we past that sort of behavior now? And then they're like getting all irritated because it shouldn't be for girls and it shouldn't be for couples and stuff, and that's how it's turning. I don't know if we're just seeing the perspective of somebody that is very outdated and so we're not meant to like that, but really. And then there's this particular gamer and they're like, oh, he's not a baddie, he's just a gamer that is perving and telling Sailor V to undress to prove, because she can't be a girl because she's good at games, so she has to get naked and prove. It's not that it was that made me go, yeah, I'm not okay with this. Like, I actually feel a bit uncomfortable reading this. And so then I just started flicking through. So this is actually a DNF, which is really frustrating. Like, I kind of don't want to get rid of it because, one, it's expensive, and two, I do love the art. Like, this cover and stuff is beautiful, but actually reading it and that message of the gamer thing and beauty standards and stuff, I was just like, we really shouldn't be doing that. I don't know, it made me feel uncomfortable that I then don't want to read it. I don't know, I was going into this for a really cutesy fun time, and then to have those sort of messages put in, I was like, I don't like that. I'm gonna read a bit more of Pillars of the Earth and then I will do some bits and stuff. I don't know, maybe I'm just reading too much into it because it is an older book and stuff, but I read classics. I don't know, it just seems weird. It just seems weird to me, and as much as, okay, it's 9 years old, it just shows that it hasn't aged well, in my opinion. But yeah, okay, but that's kind of put a sour mood, so I'm gonna try and change that and read something different. It is now the evening time, so what time are we at? We're at 6:46 in the evening, and I've eaten dinner, as we saw, cooked a nice little vegetarian chili, which I always enjoy doing, and I've read a good decent chunk. Pillars of the Earth, absolutely loving it. It's really good. I'm now up to chapter 4 part 2 on page 252, so I've got 50 pages left, and after this update I'm going to get straight back to this. I have been loving this. Chapter 3 has really picked up the pacing of it. We do actually start going back to some of the people that we were following. Remember how, obviously for you, really wasn't that long ago, but I was talking about how I wasn't sure if each chapter was going to be a different perspective, but we're now starting to get different perspectives within the chapters. Really interesting. So far we've had 2 additional perspectives, and we've also gone back to Tom, our mason, and we've also seen Philip, our monk, and things are really picking up. It is so good. First perspective you get in chapter 3 is despicable. He is such a horrible person, and the things that he describes, the things that he thinks about doing is just, oof, it's not a fun head to be in, let's put it that way. It's very dark, and that's the thing with this book, it doesn't pull its punches. It is a darker read, but I am loving this. This is so good. The atmosphere is amazing. There is also a lot of descriptions about the architecture of things, because Tom is a mason and that's what he thinks about, the architecture of everything. And so you have his perspective and another perspective that I won't go into detail, where they think about the architecture to buildings, and it's really good. I'm actually really enjoying it. It's a weird thing that I never thought I would love, but I love reading descriptions of buildings, and I think that came from reading Notre Dame de Paris by Victor Hugo. The 3 chapters where he took the time to talk about architecture was amazing. I loved it, and so I can really appreciate it when it's done well, and this is done so well. There is so much that's happening where I'm just like, oh my god, this is really intense, and the pacing's really picked up, and I honestly didn't want to put it down, but I needed to cook. I was getting really hungry and I didn't want to have this one downstairs when I'm eating because it's a bit more heavy. I don't know, I did earlier for lunch. I just decided that at dinner I wouldn't take it down. A weird thought process on my part, but yeah, this is really good. I'm really looking forward to getting into the next 50 pages, but I also feel like we're now getting to that point where I don't want to put it down, although we are only reading 2 chapters a week, but it's fantastic. I'm really enjoying this, but I would love to read more and maybe get ahead for next week. I've got the time next week, so it shouldn't be a problem for me to actually be able to read the 2 chapters. So this was so good. Definitely not a book to read when I'm tired, because I really want to focus in on it, but this is so, I just love it. And I know I've said that so many times and I apologise. This is the problem with books that I really like, is I just say repetitively, it's so good. And it's really hard because I do know the things that I want to tell you, like the architecture things I really enjoy, like the fact the pacing's picking up and things are getting darker, but it is always interspaced with me going, it's really good, because I'm enjoying it so much. So another book that I picked up, I actually decided while I was cooking dinner and just finished it off now. It's Lord Arthur Savile's Crime by Oscar Wilde. And this was so much fun. It is so silly, and I'm really not going to tell you what this is about. It's only small, but it was just so funny, and I loved the wit in this. It was really well done, and it is Oscar Wilde kind of poking fun at the higher society, like the elite society, and the way people can act within that class. It was just him poking fun at it, and it was so much fun. There is also things that can be said in a deeper meaning part, but I also feel like, again, that's kind of giving it away, and it's only 50 pages long. But I feel like it was the perfect length. Like, there was a lot going on. It was really interesting. It was ridiculous. I really did enjoy this, and the writing, I just automatically sucked me in. I really enjoy Oscar Wilde's writing. I have to admit, when I first read The Picture of Dorian Gray, I wasn't sure if I loved Oscar Wilde's writing, to be quite honest. In the one where he had to revise what he was writing, he had to put in filler, basically, to make his book longer, and you can really tell that. And then I read the uncensored version of Dorian Gray last year for Halloween. Holy cows, that was fantastic. That was such a good book. It was amazing. I loved it, and you could really see his writing shine through, and all that extra fluff that was put in to make the book longer wasn't there. It was just so good. That's what this one does as well. So if you're a bit like, you want to try Oscar Wilde but you're not sure, do always check out these little Black Penguin classics. Like, they're really cheap, and it gives you a taste for what the writing is like. And this one is a complete short story, and it's just really good, really fun, gives you a good insight into what Oscar Wilde is like as a writer, and it's great. I loved it. This was fantastic. So I'm really pleased that I've finished a book that I've enjoyed, because like, so far we've had me continuing on with a book, yes, but I'm not going to finish it today. Like, I would be impressed if I could. And then I've had the DNF, and so I'm really pleased that I picked this one up, and it's been such a good read. But like I say, the plan is I'm going to read the next 50 pages of this. I do also want to journal, so I might do 50 pages and then journal, and then I think we're on track to finish all the books that I wanted to read, well, apart from the DNF. That's the plan. It's really good. It's definitely picked up, and I'm very, very pleased with that. So yeah. Good morning. It is now the end of the readathon. It's actually 9:30. I stopped reading at 8:38. I was actually up pretty early and I started reading at 7 this morning, maybe just before 7. So I read for like an hour and a bit this morning, which was lovely. Such a nice way to start the day. Not something that I can indulge in too often really, but it was really nice. A nice slow relaxing wake up. But let's talk about what I actually read last night and this morning. Obviously I did take a break. I took some time to do some journaling and I watched Gavin Agatha Christie solving video. It's a series that he's been doing and he had his recent one come out and I was saving it because I knew I would enjoy it, and it was such a good time. You should definitely check out Gavin if you haven't already. He's such a great YouTuber, such good videos. But yeah, so that was great, and so I took an hour just to chill out and watch that as well. I did finish my 4 chapters. Well, technically yesterday I only had 3 of them, but I did finish all the chapters I needed to read for Pillars of the Earth. We are now up to part 2 and I love how each part is done with these beautiful illustrations. This was really good. Like I said, the pacing really picked up and there was so much happening. It was fantastic. I really enjoyed it and I'm so curious to see where it's going to go from here. Side effects for all the things that have happened. I think it's going to be really good. But yeah, like I say, it's a bit of a raw, brutal book. Like there's a lot of darker, gritty things that are happening, but it's so well done. I'm really enjoying this. So yeah, so pleased that I read my 220 pages of that. After that, last night I did start Lost in a Moment and Found by Shauna Maguire. I read about 40 pages of this. It was actually the first 40 pages that I'd already read because I started reading this in the last 24-hour readathon before realising that actually I was on book 7 and not book 8. The good thing about this series is that the even numbers you can just read in any order. You don't have to read them. The odd numbers you should read as 1, 3, 5, 7, because that makes sense with the plot. But all the even numbers, like, you don't have to read them, you could just read all the odd numbers in one go and then go back to the even numbers, like, it doesn't matter. But I like reading them in the order that they've been published. So I completely flopped on the last one for how I like to read them. So I reread the first 40 pages, and then this morning this is what I was finishing off, and this book was 146 pages, so I read about 100 pages this morning. It was so good. This one does deal with a much darker topic than the other books. As I mentioned, pretty sure at the start of this video, that the Way with Children series is portal fantasies, but each one deals with a societal topic to do with children. This one is particularly dark. There is actually a contents warning at the start of this book that Sean Maguire wrote in, saying that this handles a topic that she herself would have wanted to be warned before going into it. That's what she's done for her readers, so they're fully aware, and this does deal with grooming. It's not done in an explicit way. Our main character Antsy manages to run away before anything actually happens, but you get the looming presence of that and what it can turn into. I thought personally it was handled really well. You got the sense of dread that Antsy felt in this situation, her not quite understanding it because she's such a young child, then running away. And it was really well handled, I think. And I really enjoyed exploring this concept of the world, not the concept of the grooming, but the concept of the world that Antsy runs away to, how everything lost turns up in this one particular place and the way it all works. And I thought it was really good. It was really, really interesting. So yeah, I enjoyed this one a lot, and we had like an Easter egg for a couple of the other books, and I really enjoyed that. I thought it was really well done. So yeah, I loved this. So that does mean that I did actually pretty much finish everything that I wanted to read. However, there was one book that I did have on my initial announcement video that I wanted to read, but I didn't read it. And that is because I swapped it out for Pillars of the Earth and the 220 pages of that, although it does go to show that I keep putting that book off. I was actually meant to read My Fine Fellow, but instead decided to swap it out for my chapters of Pillars of the Earth because I was really behind. Someone in the Discord said that's what they were going to do, is use one of the prompts for the pages that we need to read for the Pillars of the Earth, and I thought that was a really good idea. In true procrastination fashion, I still keep putting off My Fine Fellow, so happily swapped it out for this. The prompt is a book I keep putting off, and technically I've been putting off both of them, so at least I made progress in one that I had to read, so that was good. But let's do a quick recap of what we've got read. As we know, 220 pages of the Pillars of the Earth, absolutely loving it, fantastic book. It's intimidating because of the sheer size, but it's so well written. We did have a DNF for Sailor V, codename Sailor V. Unfortunately, I just did not enjoy the way that this has aged. It wasn't what I wanted at all with some of those messages that were at the start in the first 2 volumes. I was like, this isn't for me. Unfortunately, it's such a shame because I do really like Sailor Moon. I think my nostalgia is attached to the anime and the manga. Even the Sailor Moon manga I've kind of petered off reading. Maybe I'll just watch the anime. Not that I watch TV much, and I have no idea how I'd find that, but anyway, not the point. We also read Lord Arthur Savile's Crime by Oscar Wilde. This was a great book. It was so ridiculous and so silly, and I loved the things it was poking fun at. It was such a good time, and again, exquisitely written. That's what I come to expect from classic books, to be fair. And then finishing off with Lost in a Moment and Found. I think it's been a really good reading time. I've had good fun with, well, okay, barring one book, we've had a really good time. I feel really pleased with the amount that I got read. I think it worked out to 416 pages or something, which isn't bad. It's not as much as what I could read within this time frame, but I did have this day broken up with a lot of just me doing other things that needed to be done. I feel so relaxed now. I feel so settled. That's what the reminder of this readathon is just take that time for you. Make sure you get at least one day every so often that you can take for you, that you can just rest and relax. And sometimes that resting and relaxing is actually maybe decluttering your space so that you feel more settled, or whatever it may be. Just remembering to take that day for yourself, like, it's so important. I am going on more tangents, kind of expected, but anyway, not the point. The point is, we're at the end, and thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you remember to take at least one day for yourself just to relax. If you have made it this far, then let's do a door, actually, for the last book that I read. Doors are very important in this series, so let's do a door emoji. I'm gonna go. So thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please do give it that thumbs up and subscribe and comment. Those 3 things really help this channel grow. My social media links and anyone I've mentioned will be linked below, and I will of course catch you in the very next video.